The grand hall of the palace sparkled under a million lights, each one casting a delicate shimmer across the crowd. Delegates from hundreds of worlds had gathered for the annual Galactic Innovation Awards, a ceremony that celebrated the bravest minds and the boldest inventions across the universe. The air hummed with excitement, alien languages overlapping in an unfamiliar harmony, laughter echoing against the crystalline walls, and music vibrating in rhythms that made humans' bones tingle. Amid the spectacle felt small. He was just a human from a recovering Earth, a planet many still considered primitive. He had worked tirelessly for years, pouring sweat, blood, and sleepless nights into creating a gravity stabilizer that could terraform uninhabitable worlds safely. He never expected recognition beyond his small home colony. Yet here he was, seated among the most prestigious beings in the galaxy, feeling like an ordinary man in an extraordinary universe. The announcements began, each name met with cheers, whistles, and flashes of light from recording devices. His heart pounded as the presenter spoke of accomplishments, but he barely followed. He was lost in the colors, the sounds, and the dizzying reality that he had actually made it here. Then a hush fell over the hall. His name was called. For a moment the world seemed to stop. Heads turned, eyes widened, and the crowd erupted in applause. His legs felt like lead as he rose from his seat, the path to the stage stretching like a dream. His chest tightened. Humans weren't supposed to reach this far. They were just survivors, explorers, the young species that the galaxy observed with polite curiosity. Yet here he was, walking into the light, the universe itself focused on him. Then he saw her. She was tall and elegant, her flowing gown shimmering like liquid starlight. Her sapphire eyes were fixed on him with intensity, but they weren't cold or distant. They held curiosity and something more, something almost like recognition. She had a quiet authority that made everyone else seem ordinary. As approached the stage, she stepped forward. Her slender hand extended, holding a glowing award plaque, crafted from a crystal that seemed alive, humming softly with energy. "Congratulations," she whispered. Her voice was soft, almost hidden under the applause, yet it carried across the stage straight into his heart. "Come to my room tonight for the real award." The words shocked him, leaving a strange flutter in his chest. Did she mean it literally? Was it a joke? Or was it a challenge? He couldn't tell, but there was something in her tone that felt sincere, genuine, and inviting. Accepted the award, feeling the weight of it in his hands. Not just the physical weight of the crystal, but the weight of expectation, of potential, of eyes across the galaxy now upon him. The applause roared again, but he hardly heard it. His focus was fixed on her, on the way her lips curved slightly as if hiding a secret, on the way her gaze made him feel seen in a way no human had ever seen him before. After leaving the stage, he felt both exhilarated and terrified. Back in his seat, he glanced at the crowd. Delegates chattered, exchanged gifts, and offered congratulations, but he felt distant, caught in a bubble of wonder and disbelief. How had a human like him reached a place like this? How had his work, his tiny invention compared to centuries of alien technological mastery, earned him recognition from one of the galaxy's most powerful families? Hours passed in a blur. The ceremony continued with dances and celebrations, and yet his thoughts kept drifting back to the princess. That whisper, that invitation, lingered like a soft echo in his mind. He didn't know what it meant yet, but it awakened something in him, a mix of curiosity, courage, and an unfamiliar hope. Perhaps this night was not just about awards, recognition, or fame. Perhaps it was the beginning of something entirely different, something beyond honor, something deeply personal. As the crowd mingled and the palace glittered around him, realized that nothing in his life had prepared him for this moment. He felt the weight of history, the gaze of countless civilizations, and the quiet pull of destiny. The night was far from over, and he had a choice to make. The princess's words echoed again in his mind. "Come to my room tonight for the real award." Something inside him stirred, a thrill of anticipation, a sense that the universe had just opened a door for him, and that stepping through it could change everything. The ceremony ended, leaving the grand hall echoing with laughter, chatter, and the fatting hum of alien music. Delegates drifted into smaller gatherings, sharing stories and congratulating one another, yet felt a strange emptiness, a mix of nervousness and anticipation. He held the glowing award in his hands, but it suddenly felt less important than the soft whisper he could still hear in his mind. "Come to my room tonight for the real award." Hours later, the palace corridors were quieter, the lights softer, casting long shadows on the polished floors. Walked carefully, his human senses overwhelmed by the alien architecture. The walls pulsed faintly with energy, as if the building itself was alive, breathing in rhythm with the stars outside. Every step toward the princess's quarters made his heart beat faster. He felt excitement, fear, and curiosity twisting together in a strange, almost dizzying way. He paused outside the door marked with a delicate symbol of, a glyph glowing faintly in sapphire light. Taking a deep breath, he pushed the door open. The room was not what he expected. There was no luxury of gold or jewels, no overwhelming display of wealth. Instead, it was an observatory, a private chamber with walls of transparent crystal giving a panoramic view of the city and the stars beyond. Miniature planets spun in gentle orbits, reflecting soft light into the room. It felt like stepping into a dream. Stood by the largest window, her back to him, gazing at the stars. She turned slowly, her expression softening as she saw him. "You came," she said simply, a hint of relief in her voice. "I wasn't sure if you would." I wanted to," stammered, unsure if he sounded brave or foolish. "I don't know what to expect." "You'll see," she replied, a small smile lifting her lips. "This isn't about awards or fame. It's about understanding something important." She gestured to the spinning planets. "Our people often get lost in politics, power, and wealth. We forget the scale of the universe, the beauty of what is possible, and the courage it takes to try the impossible. You remind me of that courage." Felt warmth spread through his chest. The words felt heavy with meaning, more than any applause could give him. He had never imagined an alien princess would see a human like him, not just as an engineer or a representative of a fledgling planet, but as someone capable of inspiring hope across galaxies. Stepped closer, her gaze never leaving his. "I invited you here not because I am curious about your invention, but because I am curious about you. Humans, you are unpredictable. You act from intuition, from hope, from a stubborn belief that you can make a difference. That is rare in the galaxy." His throat tightened. I didn't do anything special. My work was just my work." "Exactly," she said softly. "It was ordinary to you, but extraordinary to the universe. You did what most beings would have considered impossible. That is what I wanted to honor. That is your real award, the courage to act when no one expects you to." They stood together in silence, watching the city below. Realized the invitation was not a romantic one, nor even about luxury or power. It was something far rarer, recognition that transcended species, culture, and expectation. He felt an emotional connection, fragile but undeniable, bridging worlds he had never imagined he could reach. "Tell me about your home," said, breaking the silence. "Your planet, your people, your life before all of this." Spoke slowly, sharing stories of Earth struggles, small victories, and stubborn hope. Listened, her eyes wide with fascination, occasionally tilting her head as if each word surprised her. She shared pieces of her own life as well, of the burden of royalty, of expectations that never ceased, and of the loneliness that even a princess could not escape. By the time the first lights of the distant stars shimmered brighter, realized that this meeting was not just about him or his award. It was a rare moment of connection, a bridge between two worlds that had never truly understood each other. The real award, he now felt, was this: being seen, truly seen, by someone who held the universe in her hands yet chose to honor a single human heart. He left her room that night feeling both small and enormous at the same time, aware that the galaxy had changed for him forever. And somewhere in the distance, beyond the city, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, as if celebrating the courage of one human who dared to reach beyond his limits. The quiet of the night was shattered by sudden alarms that echoed through the palace. Red lights pulsed along the walls, casting sharp shadows that danced like angry spirits. His heart leapt into his throat. He had never experienced anything like this, not even close. The serene beauty of the princess's observatory was replaced by tension and urgency. His calmness was a stark contrast to the alarms. Her posture stiffened, but her voice remained steady. "Stay here for a moment," she said. "No, wait. Come with me. You need to see this." She led him through long corridors, passing guards who ran in precise formations, their armor clinking softly. Screens along the walls flickered with real-time data, shadowy vessels moving with calculated precision toward the palace. "They think this palace is unguarded," said, her voice low but fierce. "Some factions in the council do not want humans to rise. They fear what your presence here represents. They see your work as dangerous, as a symbol that humans can shape the future of our galaxy." Stomach twisted, they want to stop me." His eyes met his. "Yes, but more than that, they want to remind everyone that humans are not to be trusted with influence. That is why I brought you here tonight, because you are already part of what they fear." He felt panic creeping in. He was just a human engineer. He had no armies, no powers, and certainly no experience fighting alien factions. Yet as he looked into her eyes, something stirred inside him, an unfamiliar courage. He realized that despite being far from home, despite being unprepared, he could not just run. He had to act. They reached the central control room. Holographic displays showed the intruding ships, calculating their trajectories toward critical points in the palace. Fingers danced over her console, issuing commands with precision and authority. "Our defenses are strong, but we need your help," she said, glancing at him. "You understand stabilizer systems better than anyone. You can help reinforce the shields." Swallowed hard. He had studied these systems in theory, but never under this kind of pressure, with lives depending on his every move. I'll try," he whispered, voice trembling. Hours, or perhaps minutes, time seemed distorted, passed in a blur of calculations, frantic typing and quick adjustments. Worked with, their minds linking in an unspoken rhythm. Sweat ran down his face, and his hands shook, but each adjustment he made seemed to hold back the threat inch by inch. The palace vibrated slightly as the defensive shields held, repelling the first wave of attacks. Finally, the room went quiet, the alarms ceasing one by one. Slumped back in relief, exhaustion crashing over him. Approached, her expression softening. "You did it," she said simply. "You've not only protected me and the palace, but you've reminded us that courage can come from unexpected places, from humans." Shook his head, disbelief in his own voice. "I just followed instructions." "No," she corrected gently. "You did what most would never dare. You acted when others would have frozen. That is what makes humans extraordinary." Her hand rested briefly on his shoulder, a touch full of respect and admiration. It was not royal protocol, it was personal acknowledgement. Something had never experienced before from anyone, let alone an alien princess. They stood together in the silence that followed, listening to the distant hum of a safe palace. Realized that the night had changed him. The stars outside no longer seemed distant or untouchable. They felt like witnesses to his courage, markers of the small yet undeniable difference one human could make in a universe filled with power, politics, and fear. His gaze lingered on him, unflinching. "You are human, and yet you embody something the galaxy has almost forgotten: hope, resilience, and fearlessness. That is why I invited you here tonight. That is why the real award was never a plaque. You've earned something far greater." Swallowed hard, his chest tight. The reality of the night, the danger, the fear, the adrenaline, had melted into a quiet understanding. This was not just a moment of survival. It was the first step in something much larger: trust, recognition, and a bond between worlds. Outside, the city lights shimmered peacefully again. Inside, realized the truth had been showing him all along: bravery, courage, and heart were the real currency of the universe. And in that moment, he felt the unspoken promise of an extraordinary journey just beginning. The palace had settled into an eerie calm after the attack. The alarms were gone, the red lights dimmed, and the distant hum of the city below reassured that danger had passed, for now. But the events of the night lingered in his mind, a storm of adrenaline, fear, and awe that he couldn't shake. He sat in a quiet corner of the observatory, staring at the stars beyond the crystal walls, his hands still trembling from the earlier chaos. Approached quietly, her footsteps soft against the polished floor. She didn't speak at first. Instead, she looked at him with an intensity that made his heart skip. Then slowly she sat beside him, the light of the planets reflecting in her deep blue eyes. "You surprised me tonight," she said, her voice calm but carrying weight. "Not just with your skills, but with your courage. You acted when any other human or alien might have frozen." Shook his head, a nervous laugh escaping. "I didn't do anything special. I just did what I had to do. You were counting on me, and I followed my instincts." Smiled faintly, but it was tinged with something deeper. "That is exactly why it was special. Humans act differently. You don't always calculate risk the way we do. You rely on hope, intuition, and determination. You reach for what seems impossible because you believe it can be done. That is rare. That is extraordinary." Her words sank into him and felt a warmth spreading through his chest. He had always believed that his achievements were small in the grand scheme of the galaxy. Yet here, an alien princess, the daughter of one of the most powerful rulers in the universe, was telling him that his courage mattered, that his humanity mattered. Looked out at the stars for a moment, her expression softening. "When I first saw you at the ceremony, I sensed something different. Among thousands of delegates, your presence, it resonated. Humans carry something in their hearts that many of us have lost: hope, resilience, and the ability to inspire others without even trying." Swallowed hard, emotion catching him off guard. "I never thought anyone would see that, in me or in my people. We're just trying to survive, to grow, to make a small difference." "You have made more than a small difference," said, her voice gentle but firm. "Tonight, you reminded me why courage matters, why reaching beyond fear matters. You are proof that even the smallest spark can ignite change across worlds." For the first time, felt truly seen. Not as a representative of Earth, not as an engineer, not as a human novelty, but as someone who mattered, as someone capable of inspiring hope in even the most powerful beings in the galaxy. A connection, fragile but undeniable, began to form between them, a bridge between two worlds, two species, and two hearts. Leaned back slightly, her eyes still fixed on him. "I invited you here not for awards, not for recognition, but to remind you, and perhaps myself, why courage, hope, and determination are the truest forms of power. You've reminded me that the galaxy is bigger than politics, bigger than fear. And humans, you carry a spark that can change everything." His voice trembled slightly as he spoke. I don't know what to say. I never imagined I could make a difference on this scale." "You already have," she said softly, a small smile touching her lips. "The real award was never the plaque. It was this: understanding, connection, and the courage to act even when no one expects you to. That is the real power of humanity." For a long moment they sat together in silence, letting the weight of her words sink in. Felt pride, humility, and awe all at once. He realized that the universe was vast and full of mysteries, but it was not empty of meaning. Connection, courage, and hope were forces stronger than any weapon or technology. As the stars shimmered above, understood the truth had been revealing all along. Recognition without connection is empty. Courage without purpose is fleeting. And the spark of humanity, its hope, determination, and heart, was perhaps the greatest gift the galaxy had ever seen. And in that quiet, crystal observatory, a bond formed that would shape both their destinies, one that transcended worlds and species, beginning a journey neither could have predicted. The palace had fallen into a calm quiet after the night's chaos. Outside, the stars sparkled like scattered diamonds, painting the sky with colors had never imagined. Inside the observatory, he and sat side by side, sharing a space that felt separate from the grandeur and politics of the palace. It was a rare moment of peace, and could feel his heart slowly settling after the adrenaline of earlier events. "Tell me more about your people," said, her voice gentle. "I want to understand humans, the lives you lead, the choices you make that seem impossible sometimes." Hesitated, unsure where to start. Earth was messy, imperfect, full of struggles that often felt too large for a single person to fix. But here, under the vast canopy of stars, he felt safe enough to share. "We survive because we must. We fall, we fail, we lose people we love, and yet somehow we find a way to keep going. We hold on to hope, even when it seems foolish. That hope drives us to build, to explore, to reach beyond ourselves." Listened intently, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "I see it in you," she said softly. "Humans are fragile yet unbreakable. You carry resilience like a shield and courage like a flame. That is what drew me to you, not the award, not your invention, but the heart behind it." Felt a flush rise to his cheeks. He had never been seen this way, never truly understood or valued for something so intangible yet vital. "I never thought someone like you could understand that. I mean, you've lived among power, influence, and rules beyond comprehension. Why would you notice someone like me?" Turned slightly toward him, her expression serious yet kind. "Because I've learned that power without understanding is hollow. I've seen beings who chase control and forget what courage really means. Humans remind me of something I almost lost, the ability to hope, to act, and to inspire without fear of consequence." The words lingered in the air and felt a warmth spreading through him. For the first time in his life, he realized that what he had achieved, and the choices he had made, were seen, appreciated, and understood. Not by a teacher, not by peers, not even by his own planet, but by someone whose life spanned galaxies. They shared stories then, slowly, like travelers exchanging tales beside a fire. Spoke of Earth's struggles, small victories, and stubborn determination. Revealed glimpses of her life as a princess, the loneliness behind ceremonies, the weight of responsibility, the quiet longing for connection beyond politics and protocol. They laughed at shared observations, debated perspectives on morality and courage, and even fell silent at times, letting the glow of the stars fill the space between words. At one point, reached out and lightly traced her fingers along the holographic model of a planet spinning in the observatory. "Do you see this?" she asked. "All these worlds, all these civilizations, and yet one human, one small spark can make a difference. You've reminded me of that spark tonight." Swallowed, touched by her sincerity. "I never imagined my life could reach this far. I never imagined someone like you would notice me in this way." Smiled faintly, but it carried a depth that words could not fully capture. "Not notice, respect, understand, appreciate. You've reminded me that the universe is not just about strength, but about heart. That is why this connection between us matters. The real award is not on the stage. It is here in moments like this." Felt a rare peace settling over him. The plaque in his hands, the applause, the recognition, they all felt secondary now. What mattered was being seen, being understood, and realizing that courage and heart could transcend species, planets, and even the vastness of space. They remained together in quiet awe, gazing at the spinning planets and glittering stars. Realized that the universe felt a little smaller, a little more personal, because of this connection. Had shown him that human bravery and resilience mattered, even on a scale as grand as the galaxy. And in that silent observatory, amid planets and stars, a bond grew that neither could deny. It was fragile, yes, but it carried the power of recognition, trust, and hope, something far more valuable than any award, any ceremony, or any title. Understood now that courage was not measured by battles fought or awards received. It was measured by the hearts touched, the connections made, and the hope inspired. And tonight, under the glow of alien stars, he had done all three. Dawn crept over the palace, painting the sky in shades of violet and gold. The observatory that had felt like a sanctuary the night before now seemed smaller, more fragile. Outside, the city was alive with movement, workers, guards, and messengers preparing for the new day, but a shadow loomed over the palace. Rumors had spread quickly through the council. A human had played a critical role in defending the royal family. Some were inspired, yes, but others were wary, suspicious, and openly hostile. His expression was tense as she stood by the window, staring at the distant council chambers. "Some factions do not want humans involved in our affairs," she said quietly. "They think your presence undermines their authority. They fear what humans represent: courage, unpredictability, and a refusal to bow to tradition." Stomach tightened. He had never expected his actions to cause such a stir. "But I only did what I had to do. I just wanted to help," he said, his voice soft. "Exactly," replied, turning to him. "And that is why they fear you, because you act with purpose, not ambition, because you inspire hope without seeking power. That is dangerous to some of them." Hours later, the council convened in a glittering hall filled with stern faces and murmured warnings, followed reluctantly, unsure if he had a place there. Guards flanked him, their eyes wary but respectful. The room hummed with tension, a mix of authority and doubt, as stepped forward to address the assembly. "Today we witnessed courage," she began, her voice steady and unwavering. "Courage is not born from power or privilege. Courage is born from action, determination, and heart. Humans, like here, remind us of that. They remind us what it means to act when the outcome is uncertain, to risk for the sake of what is right." The council murmured, some nodding in agreement, others frowning with skepticism. Felt the weight of countless eyes upon him, some curious, some hostile. His hands were clammy and his heart raced, but he stayed beside, trusting her words and her presence. A senior council member stood, his voice sharp. "Princess, we respect your judgment, but this human, he is inexperienced, reckless. How can we allow him influence in matters of palace defense or diplomacy?" Felt a jolt of fear but did not flinch. She stepped closer to him. "Reckless," she said, her voice ringing with conviction. "He saved this palace, our people, and countless lives tonight. He acted when many would have hesitated. His courage is not recklessness, it is humanity." Her words carried weight and the room grew silent. Realize then that courage was not only about action, it was also about standing for what is right, even when every eye doubts you. He felt a new resolve rising inside him. This was not just a test of his abilities, it was a test of his values, his perseverance, and his heart. He straightened, lifting his gaze to meet the eyes of those who doubted him. "I don't seek power," he said quietly, yet firmly. "I act because it is necessary, because I cannot stand by when people are in danger. That is all any human or any being can promise, and that is what matters." Whispers filled the hall. Some council members exchanged surprised glances. Eyes shone with pride. Understood something important in that moment. Courage is contagious. It spreads not through intimidation or authority, but through action and conviction. Even beings from worlds beyond imagination could recognize it. By the end of the council session, tensions had eased. Some skeptics remained, but even they could not deny the truth of his actions. He had proven that courage, determination, and heart could transcend species, titles, and expectations. Gave him a small, approving nod as they left the hall together, a silent acknowledgement of what they had achieved, not through politics or force, but through trust and action. As they returned to the observatory, felt a quiet pride. He had faced doubt, fear, and judgment, and had emerged not only unbroken but stronger. For the first time, he realized the true meaning of recognition. It was not in awards or applause, but in trust earned, courage acknowledged, and the difference one could make against impossible odds. The stars outside seemed to shine a little brighter that evening, as if witnessing a new chapter in a story where humanity proved itself worthy of the universe, and knew, deep down, that this was only the beginning. Night returned to the palace, draping the city in quiet shadows and the gentle glow of alien stars. The tension of the day had faded, replaced by a peaceful stillness that made the observatory feel like a sanctuary again. Stood near the edge of the crystal walls, staring at the city below, feeling the weight of everything that had happened. He had faced fear, doubt, and danger, yet somehow he had survived and even thrived. But he still didn't understand the words had whispered to him during the ceremony. "Come to my room tonight for the real award." Entered the observatory quietly, her presence calm yet commanding. She approached him slowly, her sapphire eyes reflecting the distant stars. "You did more than I ever imagined," she said softly. "Not just tonight, but in every moment since you arrived. You reminded us all of what courage truly means. That is why you are here now." Turned to her, uncertainty clouding his expression. "I still don't understand the real award. I already received the plaque, the recognition. What more could there be?" Smile was gentle but full of meaning. "Awards are temporary and recognition fades, but connection, trust, and understanding, those are eternal. You've earned something far greater than any ceremony can provide. You've earned the acknowledgement of what your heart and courage can achieve." She gestured toward the spinning planets and stars outside. "Look at the universe, vast, endless, and full of life. And yet, a single human being, someone ordinary by many standards, can change the course of events, inspire hope, and remind even the most powerful beings of what truly matters. That is your real award." His throat tightened. He had never felt so deeply seen, so truly valued. The plaque in his hands, the applause, the formal recognition, they all seemed distant now, pale reflections of what she was offering him: understanding, respect, and acknowledgement of his humanity in the face of the galaxy's enormity. Stepped closer. "You didn't just save the palace, you reminded me why hope matters, why courage matters, why one individual, regardless of species, can leave a mark far beyond what anyone expects. That is something no ceremony can measure." Swallowed hard, overwhelmed by the sincerity in her voice. I, I never imagined my life could reach this far. I never imagined I could matter like this, to someone like you, to a whole galaxy." Reached out and placed her hand lightly on his. "You do matter. You always have. And tonight, I want you to understand that courage, kindness, and determination are the gifts you give to the universe simply by being yourself. That is the real award, not the plaque, not the ceremony, but the recognition of who you are and the impact you can have." He felt a warmth spreading through his chest, a mixture of pride, humility, and gratitude. He realized that all his struggles, all the late nights and lonely hours working on inventions that seemed insignificant, had led to this moment. Not because of fame or fortune, but because he had dared to act when others hesitated. Looked out at the stars, his mind racing with new understanding. The universe was vast, yes, and full of challenges, but it was also full of opportunities to make a difference, to connect, to inspire. He turned to, their eyes meeting, and felt the quiet strength of their shared understanding. The observatory fell into silence, but it was not empty. It was full of meaning, trust, and acknowledgement. Finally understood. The plaque was only the beginning, the ceremony a prelude. The real reward was the bond he had formed, the respect he had earned, and the reminder that courage and humanity could shine even in the darkest corners of the galaxy. As they stood together, gazing at the spinning planets and glittering stars, felt a quiet joy unlike anything he had ever known. He had crossed worlds, faced danger, and proved that even a single human heart could inspire a galaxy. And in that moment, under the alien stars and the gaze of the princess, he finally understood the truth of words. The real award was not something given, it was something recognized, something earned, something eternal. And for that recognition would last far longer than any ceremony, any plaque, or any applause. It would last a lifetime.